All right, welcome back. We have a returning guest today, Rylend Grant. I've talked to him before about his work with Action Lab, uh, ABERRANT, and BANJAX, and recently talked to him a couple months ago about his last Kickstarter, The Jump, and he is back with another Kickstarter, the Peacekeepers, and he's back to tell us about this one. So let me just go ahead and bring him in.
How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Going well, living in the pandemic era, shut up in the house, staying safe, releasing comics online.
Yeah, and that's definitely keeping your. It looks like it's definitely keeping you busy. As I said, we talked back in, I believe it was June or maybe late May about the Jump. How did
Yeah.
how did that Kickstarter finally finish up? And were you happy with the way it did?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we had a $7,000 goal, and we ended up somewhere around 15. Which is nice. The more important thing, I think we had 335 backers or something like that, which is a really nice showing for a first campaign. That was what really struck me is, I mean, the money is the money's fine and it's well and good, and of course you have to recoup your investment in these. I mean, it costs so much to actually produce a comic book. You got to pay your artists and your colorists and your letterer. But the true value of Kickstarter to me is that it's a fan base builder. There is a very rabid and active fan base on Kickstarter. It's a separate fan base from what I'm used to. I've released comics in comic shops for, I don't know, about 5 years now. And so, there are people that pretty much exclusively buy their comics in comic shops, and there are people that exclusively buy their comics on Kickstarter. And there is some crossover, but, really they're separate fan bases. And you release comics in comic shops, and you put them out there and you hear back on Twitter a little bit. And when you go to cons, you kind of interact with some fans, and that's nice and everything. But nothing like what you see on Kickstarter. I mean, it's immediate, and it is ever present. It's when you do something right, you hear cheers and applause, and you do something wrong and you hear about it immediately, and in a very good way. I mean, it was so much fun. I mean, it was just it was a month-long comic party the last time I ran one of these things, and so I couldn't wait to get back on the saddle.
So you mentioned cons. What are those again?
Oh God, yeah. Don't get me started on those. I miss cons. And I've spent a lot of time over these last couple of months, sort of trying to fill that void. I got involved almost right at the beginning of this thing with these guys who run something called the Mainframe Comic Con, which you can find at mainframecomiccon.com. And they've staged 3 events thus far. And they have, in my opinion, been kind of the best of the best in terms of these online cons, just in terms of approximating a lot of the experiences that you get at a con. And they've had big guests and great panels, and so I've helped organize a couple of those, and then it sort of culminated in the Mainframe Comic Con guys being kind of recruited to run this year's Baltimore Comic Con online. And that actually goes off this weekend at Baltimore Comic Con Live. And they're running the Ringos, and it's going to be a hell of an event. And
which you are again nominated for.
Oh yeah. Thanks for that plug. My book BANJAX, which just so happen to have here and is available in fine comic shops everywhere, and on Comixology and Amazon. BANJAX was nominated for 4 Ringos this year. We got Best Series nomination, which is a kind of a huge deal for such a small indie book. And then I was very proud to get my entire art team nominated. Fabio Alves was nominated for Best Cover Artist. Edson Ferreira was nominated for Best Colorist, and HDE, my kind of go-to letterer and everything, was nominated for best letterer. So yeah, that was exciting. But yeah, so Kevin Smith is hosting the Ringos, and that's going to be amazing. And the real cool thing, you talk about approximating the con experience. I over the course of this pandemic, the cliche is that everyone started a podcast. And I sort of, somewhat sadly became one of those people. But I think it came from a good place. My friend David Avalone and David Avalone is another pretty prolific comic creator. He is kind of one of Dynamite's go-to writers. He does Betty Page and he does Elvira, but also he wrote Drawing Blood with Kevin Eastman. And so he's kind of one of my closest friends in comics. And we got together and we were looking at kind of what was missing in terms of this like no con landscape. And there are good online cons now. There are other things that kind of approximate the actual con or artist alley experience. What we were missing is kind of the after con stuff. There's this thing called bar con at every con where the creators, you do an entire day on the floor. And you are tired out and you need to blow off some steam. And so we all kind of get together, we go to a bar across the street and we just kind of hold court, right? And you talk about the day, you talk about the, what's going on in comics. And then, eventually it kind of degenerates into you arguing over like Star Trek episodes and stuff like that. And so we were not seeing that anywhere. And so, if I was going to start a podcast, you look at comic podcasts and I think 95 of them are exactly the same. 95% of them are exactly the same, excuse me. And so if I was going to do one, it was going to be very different. It was going to be something that wasn't out there. And, this was not out there. This was not an experience we could get. And so Avalone and I kind of started this podcast. It's called The Writer's Block. It runs in a number of places, but most notably on the Comic Core YouTube channel. So every week we have a couple of our kind of heavyweight comic creator friends on, and we just kind of sit around and talk about the State of the Union, and then again end up arguing over old movies or something like that. And it had kind of like a murderer's row of guests. I mean, David F. Walker and Kevin Eastman and Erica Schultz and Scout co-publisher Charlie Stickney and on and on and on, and more to come. And so at the Baltimore Comic Con, we were kind of given the anchor leg in the pre-Ringo coverage. There's about 5 or 6 hours of pre-Ringo coverage. And so the hour before the Ringos go live, Avalone and I are going to be on with a couple of pretty high-profile guests, and can't say now because we're still finalizing things. But about 30 seconds before Kevin Smith says, "Hey, welcome to the Ringo Awards," we're going to be signing off. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've checked out your show, a couple of them, bits and parts, and it's just really fun show to listen to.
No, thank you. Yeah, we have fun doing it, which is really, I think, all that matters to me. But it's good that it's been well received, also.
So we should probably talk about the reason why you're here, to talk about
Sure.
Your Kickstarter that just launched yesterday, the Peacekeepers, and then you want to kind of give us a rundown of what it's about, and
Sure. Yeah, the Peacekeepers is a 64-page love letter to kind of dark and quirky crime dramas. I'm talking about things in the vein of Fargo and No Country for Old Men. So if you like those movies, if you like case of season crime dramas like The Wire, True Detective, if you like Elmore Leonard novels, if you like comic masterpieces like Criminal or 100 Bullets, you're going to love this thing. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you've said that this, on your Kickstarter, you said that this is kind of like the project you wanted to do, or, you've been, wanting to do. So I guess if you want to, kind of expand on, that.
Yeah, well, I have wanted to tell this story for about 15 years. Here's the thing: is I grew up in the without making this an hour-long story, I came up in the Sundance movement, right? I saw Pulp Fiction, and I decided, hey, I want to do that, right? And we've talked before on here about it. My day job is I write movies and TV shows. You know, written in Hollywood for about 15 years. You know, written for Ridley Scott and J.J. Abrams and Justin Lin and Luc Besson and John Woo and on and on and on. And so, you know, I came out here to make a certain kind of movie, though. I saw Pulp Fiction, decided I want to make movies, ran out here, went to the American Film Institute Conservatory, you know, which is one of the best film schools in the world, but it's, you know, where David Lynch went and Terrence Malick and Darren Aronofsky and, you know, a bunch of kind of snitty filmmakers like that. And, you know, got that education and I came out ready to make my Pulp Fiction. The problem was by the time I got out here and spit into the workforce, they had kind of Hollywood had stopped making those movies. The entire, you know, independent film movement had dried up and moved on to television to a certain degree and mutated. And, you know, so I started getting hired to write action movies. And I don't want to complain about that. I don't want to be the idiot here complaining that he gets to write movies. But, and I do love a great action movie, don't get me wrong. But there was this other kind of part of me, you know, this thing that it was the thing that I wanted to do that I never kind of got the chance to do. Hollywood only makes about 5 different movies these days. And you know, I'm pretty damn good at making those movies. But so The Peacekeepers is a story that, you know, I've wanted to tell and kind of Hollywood hasn't let me yet. And so I found a way to tell that story in comics. And I think it's gone off pretty well. It's one of my favorite things I've ever written. You know, it's rich in character and rich in a sense of place. You know, it's a small town sheriff's department story. And you know, kind of how this community comes together when this beloved sheriff's deputy is killed. You know, it's a big town versus small town thing. Kind of about the not necessarily about the family you're born with, but the family that you kind of create, you know, after that. You know, in my opinion, family's always family. It's the people who are there for you, right? When the shit hits the fan, not necessarily your blood relatives. So, it's a story about that. It's, you know, it's personal. And then, you know, of course I'm an action movie writer, so there's still some kick-ass action and, you know, police procedural stuff like that. So, little something for everybody, but I'm really proud of it, and you know, it seems like people are taking to it on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and we were just talking before this how you said that the first 24 hours are kind of the most, I guess, critical in the Kickstarter. Are you glad with the way it's performed so far?
Yeah, well, it's the first, you know, the first 24 hours are particularly, you know, powerful and important. The first 48 hours also. So yeah, I mean, it's what happens is your first day, your first 2 days, they kind of set the Kickstarter algorithm for you. You know, so if you perform very well, then Kickstarter kind of promotes the hell out of your project internally, and your campaign ends up kind of being a runaway success. If you kind of fall on your face in that first day, the first 2 days, then you know, you don't get promoted as much within, and you may kind of like fade into oblivion. Particularly now, because now is a weird time to be on Kickstarter, because there are currently more projects, I think, than ever, more comic projects than ever before live on Kickstarter right now. So there are a lot of projects that are kind of vying for, you know, a limited kind of pool of backer dollars, and so you really got to kind of stand out. And you kind of need that oomph. And so, yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed with how, you know, with how many people returned from the last campaign. And there's this thing that can happen. I mean, your sophomore campaign can really be a letdown, because the first time you run a Kickstarter, it's very novel to everyone. Your friends and family will kind of show up in force and give you these big contributions, because they're like, oh, you know, look at what Riley's doing. He's doing this thing. And then when you release another book 3 months later, they're like, what the hell is this happening all the time now? And so a lot of them don't show up. If they do show up, you kind of get these token contributions, which, you know, you appreciate and everything. But so the hope with any sophomore campaign, a lot of people experience the sophomore slump where, you know, again, the family, the friends, they're not going to show up enthusiastically that second time. But you hope that you have made enough of an impact on the Kickstarter community that the community at large kind of shows up for you, right? And that's what's happened this time. I mean, we we were right kind of on par with our backer count this time. Compared to our first campaign, and then we actually outpaced our dollar amount by I don't know, $500-600. So the Kickstarter community showed up for us, and we're off to a good start. And if you're watching this, we are about 24 hours in right now. And so if this is interesting to you, go ahead and make your contribution. Again, this next day is still pretty critical for us. So any day is critical for us, but particularly this one. So go ahead, and if you're going to make your contribution, make it today.
So what can people that support your campaign, what different levels of support do you have for them, and what stuff can they get?
Yeah, a lot of different and interesting tiers here. So the first thing is just the book. I mean, this is kind of like a Cadillac of a book in terms of how we print it. Kickstarter can really be a mixed bag in terms of the quality of the product you're going to receive. A lot of people will, they try to go for the least expensive thing basically, and just ship you a stack of garbage. We have gone all out in every case. Again, the first thing is this is a double issue. You're not buying a single issue. You're getting issues 1 and 2 for the price of a single issue. It's a 64-page monster, basically. It is perfect bound, which means it is not a traditional floppy with a staple. It is almost done like a trade paperback, nice and thick, and it has a hard stock cover. The interior pages are of a very high grade, glossy pages. We went all out, best we could do for everything. It's like the printing of this book is almost a work of art. So you're going to get it. You're immediately going to feel the difference. So there's that. We have 4 covers available. There's our standard cover, which, maybe you can scroll down and show to them.
Sure.
But then we also have, I'm kind of, there's our standard cover right there, but I'm kind of at this point known for my variant covers. When I was doing my books with Action Lab, they required us to do a single variant cover for every issue. People love to collect variant covers, but if you know me, I don't do anything straightforward. And so all of my variant covers were kind of crazy homages. I think our first variant cover, I'm looking over here because I can actually maybe tilt and show you, but I have all my comic covers on the wall, so it's easy for me to look and see. So so I think our first variant cover on Aberrant was a Billy D. Williams kind of Colt 45 ad send up. Aberrant works every time. And then we did a Coming to America variant. We did a couple of Karate Kid variants. We did Top Gun Playing with the Boys volleyball homage variant. We did for BANJAX we did a Rocky 4 variant, so a Gremlins variant. And so we're kind of known for these.
Did you also do one where like the Tony Stark drinking one?
Oh yeah, that actually just came out and is available through Pop Cult HQ. We did it was an homage to the Iron Man Demon in a Bottle cover from the 70s, which is really good and really our BANJAX is an addiction play in a lot of ways. So it was a Demon in a Bottle was a heavy influence. So so we went out again on these, and the Peacekeepers, at its heart is kind of it's a crime drama, but it's a story about bank robbers. And so we sent up some of the great crime dramas and some of the great bank robbery shows. So what you're looking at right now is our Point Break cover. You can kind of see the ex-presidents there in the background, and one of our main antagonist basically with his Ronald Reagan mask. If you scroll up, we also have if you scroll up, we have I think the next one, that's our Fargo cover, Fargo homage cover. You can see the wood chipper action there, kind of 3 haunting images from Fargo recreated. And then this is our Heat cover. It's a tribute to Michael Mann's bank robbery classic Heat. So great covers there. But then it talks about how interactive and kind of interesting it is, the fan base on Kickstarter. And so I didn't just want to kind of, I didn't just want rewards. I didn't want this to be a store. It's like, hey, just buy this stuff. I mean, I wanted everything to be interactive. So we have, the first thing we have is we have all these original art tiers. You can get original art from the book with characters from the book, but then also we have all these commission tiers. Like, our artists, our colorist will draw what you ask them to draw. If you want us to put you on the Demon in a Bottle cover, we could probably do that. If you want a pinup of your neighbor, fornicating with a goat, we could probably do that. We've gotten some really good, interesting commission requests over the years, and we are happy to oblige. So anything goes. Those are always fun. There are tiers where you could be drawn into the book as a character. There's the background character tier. There is the become a supporting character with lines tier, which is always very popular. You just become a character in the book, which is always fun. We can put you on one of our covers. There are two put you on a cover tiers where there's the digital tier where you just kind of get the digital art. We can put your face on one of those Point Break characters. We can put you, we can put your head on the guy feeding the dude into the wood chipper. So that's always fun. But there's the digital tier on that, but also we can actually print up physical copies of the book and send them to you. So that's always interesting to get you get a hard copy of a comic book with your face on the cover is kind of amazing and novel for a lot of people. What else do we have? So there are the producer tiers. I have, like I said, I've worked in Hollywood for about 15 years, and I have, my first book, Aberrant, 2 weeks before 2 weeks before issue 2 hit newsstands, we had it set up as a TV show. And so you can, via this campaign, get yourself a spot as a producer on the Peacekeepers property. So you get a credit in the book right next to the creators, writer, artist, colorist, letterer, and then you. And then any future incarnation of the book, be it a TV show, a movie, or whatever, you get the same producer credit on it. Those are always pretty popular. We have a tier which I think is pretty amazing. We have an original Peacekeeper story starring you. So starring you, excuse me. So for a price, we will write and draw and produce an original 5-page story that takes place in the Peacekeepers universe, starring you. It's one of these things where we kind of get together, pick your brain, find out what your likes and dislikes are, get some good photo images of you, and then just kind of bring you to life in the book. So we have found any and every way to kind of involve the Kickstarter community in the production of this book, to actually get them in the book, their faces, their likenesses, their personalities. And that's been the real fun of this thing, is I didn't just want to go and sell people a book. I wanted to make this kind of an event and experience. And so the entire campaign is always a conversation. I go to my backers and I'm like, look, if there's something you want to see, if we're missing an opportunity here to kind of make this more of a party, let us know. And we've gotten great feedback from people. Hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? And when somebody brings me a good idea, I'm happy and excited to kind of include it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So who are the creative team that are doing the book with you, and have you worked with them before? Or?
Yeah, well, that's kind of one of the interesting things is, the artist is a Brazilian artist named Davi Leon Dias. The colorist is an Indonesian fellow named Iwan Joko Triyono. And the letterer is HDE. And I've worked with all these guys before. So the first thing is that this is the same team that did Aberrant. We did 10 issues of Aberrant together, and of course Aberrant won a Ringo Award a couple of years back for Best Villain. It was nominated for 2 others, Best Single Issue and Best Writer. That was a book that was on a dozen critics' 10 best lists. Big hit, and so these guys do great work, obviously. I have not stopped working with those guys since ABERRANT. You know, ABERRANT was a couple of years ago now. HDE is my go-to letterer on everything. He's lettered basically everything that I've done. And he's a brilliant guy, and he's so brilliant that again he was nominated for Best Letterer this year in the Ringo Awards. Really great professional guy. Davi Iwan and I have done a couple of things together, and we actually did a book in between ABERRANT and the Peacekeepers here that is yet to be released. It was one of these books that was kind of slated to be announced and released by a big time publisher right before COVID hit the fan, but then the COVID shit hit the fan, and people started getting fired and all that stuff. And so it was kind of thrown into this purgatory for a while. Now it looks like we're just kind of coming out of that, and it's about to be kind of scheduled and released with a publisher. But we shall see. But in the meantime, we're working on this one, and so this is kind of my band of merry comic men. And so you're in good hands here. I mean, we know each other backwards and forwards. We've been around the block a couple of times, so it's a good professional team.
Nice. If you don't have anything else that you'd like to say about the project, I'll give you a chance to kind of do a final pitch.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. The final pitch. The book is called The Peacekeepers. Again, it is a dark, quirky crime drama in the vein of Fargo or No Country for Old Men. It is available right now only on Kickstarter. You can go to bit.ly/peacekeepers /the Peacekeepers, excuse me, or just go to Kickstarter and search The Peacekeepers. Yeah, I mean it's a great book. It's one of my favorite things that I've ever done. Go there, check it out, watch the video, watch these wacky tiers that we have set up, all these kind of cool and crazy rewards you can sign up for. It's a lot of fun. Come join the party. We're going to be hanging out for a month, talking comics and doing crazy. So more the merrier. Come on down.
And where can people find you on? I see you have your I guess that's Twitter and your social media handle.
I am at Rylend Grant on all forms of social media, and I like to type it out because it's not a real name. My parents just kind of arranged some letters into a fit and saddled me with it, Rylend. I am at Rylend Grant on all forms of social media. That's the best way to find me. You'll find my link tree there and my links to, the podcast and to the various, fits of crazy that I'm into, all my other comic stuff. BANJAX and ABERRANT, of course, are available at fine comic shops everywhere and online at Comixology or Amazon. You can also, we are testing the Kickstarter add-ons engine right now. We were, one of the few campaigns that were kind of selected for the beta. So if you want to check out ABERRANT or BANJAX or, my last Kickstarter book, The Jump, you can actually buy copies of those via Kickstarter. So you back the campaign, you choose your tier, and then you go into kind of an add-on store after that. And if you want, we have signed copies of rare variants and signed copies of the trades and all that. Obviously, with no con season, it's very hard to get signed copies of anything right now. So a rare opportunity, perhaps the only, who knows when we're going to be back at cons. And I only do cons on the West Coast for the most part, unless there's an award involved or something like that. Because I have a 4-year-old and I can't go everywhere. I can't go as many places as I'd like. So if you want a signed copy of anything, this is the place to get it. So bit.ly/Peacekeepers. Come find us.
All right. Well, thanks for coming back and talking to us about your latest project, and good luck as I'm sure that it's, everybody should check it out and support it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
And, stay safe and stay healthy. And we'll be looking forward to your next project once this one wraps up.
Yeah. Take it easy. Stay safe, man.
All right. Thanks. Bye.